Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the joint meeting of Assembly Ways and Means and Senate Committee on Finance. If I could thank you all for tuning in early and getting checked in early, we appreciate it. So with that, if I could go ahead and have our committee secretary call the roll, please.
Okay, take and roll. Senator Brooks.
Here.
Senator Canizaro.
Here.
Senator Dennis.
Here.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Here.
Senator Goycochea.
Here.
Senator Hammond.
Here.
Senator Kiefer.
Here.
Senator Ratty.
Here.
Senator Sievers-Gansert.
Here.
Assemblywoman Benitez-Thompson.
Present.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Here.
Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Here.
Assemblyman Hafen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Here.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Here.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Here.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Here.
Assemblyman Roberts.
Here.
Assemblywoman Titus.
Here.
Assemblywoman Tolles.
Here.
Assemblyman Watts.
Here.
And Chair Carlton.
And I am here. Thank you very much. And good morning to everyone. Our typical notices, if you have an electronic device, please do silence it. Sometimes they can interrupt the flow of the meeting. Please do remember to mute yourself when you're not speaking, and please leave the camera on so that we can maintain a full committee. So with that, I believe we can go ahead and move forward to our first agenda item today, which is a review of the legislative audit summaries from Mr. Crossman. If I could have Mr. Crossman brought on board.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Crossman. Welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, Madam Chair Carlton and Chair Brooks and members of the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means and Senate Finance. For the record, Dan Crossman, Legislative Auditor. By way of just brief introduction, I joined the Audit Division in 2003, coming from the public accounting firm of KPMG. I was appointed as Legislative Auditor in August of 2019. And this will be my 9th session. The Audit Division consists of 30 talented professionals with diverse backgrounds that help us perform the unique and important work that we do. I have with me today as well Shannon Rydell, and I'd like to turn it over to her for a second to introduce herself.
Good morning, members of the Joint Subcommittee. I am Shannon Rydell, and I currently serve as the Chief Deputy Legislative Auditor. And I joined the Audit Division in February of 2000. It will be my 11th session. I'm a graduate of the University of Nevada, Reno, and I'm currently a certified public accountant in Nevada. It's my pleasure and honor to continue to serve the legislature as a member of the Audit Division.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity today to briefly present our publication entitled Audit Report Summaries 2019-2020. It looks like this. It's about a half-inch thick. You should have already received a copy of that. It's also available as an exhibit on the web for this meeting. This publication includes information on the audit reports we've issued since January of 2019 through the most recent Legislative Commission's Audit Subcommittee meeting, which was held last month. The report includes a table of contents so that each audit summary can be located, as well as references to the applicable pages within the governor's recommended budget. The purpose of presenting this document is to make you aware of it as a resource that's available to you to identify recently completed audits and to see our recommendations. I will not go into any specific audits today, but rather just give you an overview of our process and explain our publication. As indicated on the bottom of the cover page, the first page of the audit report summaries in this document identify significant monetary benefits, potential cost savings, and revenue enhancements for the past 2 years, including measurable financial benefits from recommendations in effect from prior years. We estimate that more than $31 million has been realized over the past biennium. However, in addition to financial benefits, and arguably more important than the financial impacts that our audits may have, many of our reports focus on program activities that can significantly impact the lives of Nevada's citizens. This document also includes information regarding the implementation of our recommendations. Our audit follow-up process helps us answer the question, how do we know that our recommendations are being implemented? It's important to note, I think, that our follow-up process is nationally recognized by the United States Government Accountability Office as a best practice and has been in place since the late 80s. So I'd like to take a couple minutes today to describe our audit follow-up process and what you'll find in this publication. For each audit report, you'll find an audit highlights page that summarizes our findings. Depending on the timing of the release of each report, we've included as applicable the 60-day plan of corrective action or the 6-month report, and my office's report to the Audit Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission on the status of recommendations. So what is a 60-day plan? Well, we mentioned this in the bullets on that first page. Agencies are required to submit a plan of corrective action to our office within 60 working days after an audit has been issued. This plan describes the steps the agency will take to correct the problems and implement our recommendations. Now, we receive this and review this plan to ensure that the agency's proposed steps will adequately address our recommendations. Next is the 6-month report. The Office of Finance is required to submit a 6-month report to our office indicating the status of implementation of each recommendation. So about 6 months after the corrective action plan is prepared by the agencies, the Governor's Office of Finance, the Internal Audit Division, will contact the audited agency and independently review the implementation status of the recommendations we made. Their review may include various steps, including review of new policies and procedures. They may sample transactions or review documents. And that report is then provided to us so we understand where those recommendations are, the status of them. After that 6-month report is received, we, the Audit Division, will continue to work with agencies on any of the recommendations that are not fully implemented until the next meeting of the subcommittee, the Audit Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission. We then submit a report to the Audit Subcommittee indicating the status of recommendations, and the agency is given the opportunity to answer questions that members of the Audit Subcommittee might have during that meeting. After we present that status of recommendations, we continue to track and monitor the implementation status of all recommendations not implemented until they are, to the satisfaction of my office and the Audit Subcommittee. So over the past 2 years, the 6-month reports included 152 recommendations. At this time, 136 are fully implemented, 12 are partially implemented, and 12 have no action. Implementation, I think this is important to note, that some of these recommendations, the implementation has been hindered by the pandemic and its impact on the operations of state agencies. However, we continue to monitor the status of each recommendation until it is fully implemented. And in some case, we request agencies to return to future subcommittee meetings to discuss the status of implementation. As you'll see, we have 20 audit reports that are included in our audit report summaries document. If you have any questions about any of the audits we have conducted, please feel free to reach out to me. We are always willing and able to discuss any report or with you or anyone who would like to discuss them with us. And we are also available to make presentations in any committee. If you'd like a copy of any specific report, they are available on our website. Additionally, you can contact myself or my office and we can provide a bound copy for you. I also wanted just to quickly address the importance of the Senate Finance and Assembly Ways and Means committees in our audit process. If agencies are not cooperating and taking appropriate corrective action, and then we can let you know. We view this committee's budget approval authority as the teeth, if you will, in the process for ensuring that agencies respond to our recommendations and other requests. However, I would add that we have a good working relationship with the vast majority of state agencies and have been able to work with them to ensure our recommendations are realistic and implementable, yet still meet the corrective action that is needed. Second, I just mentioned that agencies may seek budget enhancements because of our audits, and our audits may at times provide information regarding these requests. It is possible that we will be releasing some additional audits this session. By statute, those may be presented to the Audit Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission at the discretion of the chair or may be released directly. We also look forward to this session and working with Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson and Senator Dennis, that are chairs of the joint subcommittee of the Committee on Finance and Assembly Ways and Means. So that concludes my presentation today. Like I said, we are always happy to meet with any of you to discuss our reports and provide any assistance that we can. And I'd be happy to answer any questions today if there are any.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crossman. I found the reports to be very, very helpful, especially in following up with what we vote on and debate on and decide how we want to see the budget constructed, to be able to follow through and find out, did it really work? Were there issues? And there's been a number of times where the audit division has found public safety issues while doing their audit that ended up protecting some of our most vulnerable populations. So I want to thank you for all the work that your team does. It's very, very important work, and it brings us a lot of excellent information on how the services are really being distributed to the folks on the ground. So we really do appreciate all the work that you do. So with that, committee, are there any questions of Mr. Crossman at this time? Ms. Benitez Thompson, did you have anything?
No questions, just am incredibly grateful for our auditors and their staff. They, I think, more than anything, have really, they serve as a additional set of eyes and ears for us. But their main function is to make sure that programs in the state are working well and working within the scope that our legislative authority expects them to. And like Chair Carlton said, when they're not, it sometimes can be very significant and very meaningful, whether it's an IT issue or whether it's protections of seniors or children in facilities. And so their staff has done an amazing job in protection of the public and protection of our programs and resources.
Thank you very much, Madam Majority Leader. Are there any other questions from any committee members at this time? I don't see anyone wishing to be recognized. So with that, thank you very much, Mr. Crossman. We appreciate you being here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So with that, committee members, I believe we can go ahead and move on to our first item, or our next item, which is the governor's office. I believe we have Ms. Brown.
Good morning, Chair Carlton and Chair Brooks and members of the committee. I'm Susan Brown, the Director of the Governor's Finance Office, and I have with me today Tiffany Greenemeyer. I do have a presentation that I'll go ahead and put up on the screen.
Thank you.
How's that?
I think we're good.
Okay. I cannot get it to change. Oh, there we go. All right. So the Office of the Governor includes funding for 23 positions and associated costs, and these costs are consistent with the current biennium. There are 3 decision units in this budget. The first is an E900, and it is related to E720. This decision unit includes the Patient Protection Commission, which was created through Senate Bill 544 of the 2019 session. And this was intended to be a separate account, but we had to place this within the governor's budget. So this decision unit actually transfers the Patient Protection Commission into its own account and out of the governor's office budget account into a standalone account, and then transfers the commission to the Department of Health and Human Services Aging and Disability Services Division. The E720 is related to this transfer as it funds items for a position that was approved through SB 544 but was not filled due to COVID-19, and we swept those funds. The PPC is being moved to be administratively in line with the organization that's providing policy and direct services throughout the state. The Department of Health and Human Services collects, analyzes, and manages enormous amounts of data that can assist in addressing healthcare policy across the state and feed this data to the PPC. One goal is to work internally to collect the data related to healthcare and collaborate across the department to feed that information to the PPC and work closely with them so that healthcare policies across the state are being addressed. And then finally, there is a request here in E710. This is a request for replacement computers. And this is in accordance with the Enterprise Information Technology Services Replacement Schedule and replaces computers on a 5-year schedule. And with that, I will take any questions. Yep.
Here we go. I have unmuted successfully. Ms. Benitez Thompson.
Thank you so much. I have a question, and it's just to clarify for the record. So within the E900 decision unit of those 3 positions going over to Aging and Disability Services, and then the new equipment for a vacant position. So then in total, will we see 4 positions, 3 being transferred now, but then a 4th one kind of after the fact? I just wanted to see if it was 3 or 4 where I should retain in my head as the final staffing number.
Susan Brown, for the record, it is 3 positions in total. So 2 positions were filled and the 3rd position has been held vacant for the biennium. So that will be added and the associated equipment would be purchased through that decision unit.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Benitez Thompson?
No.
Okay. All right. Other committee members, any other questions of Ms. Brown on the Office of the Governor? Pretty cut and dry.
Madam Chair.
Senator Kiekefer.
Thank you. I'll have questions probably when we get to Aging and Disability Services regarding it being the house for the Patient Protection Commission. It seems like that might be, I'm still not convinced that's the right spot for it. But I think we've seen, I've said this probably during every legislative session I've served here. The governor is grossly underfunded and could probably use a few $100,000 more to get some new positions in there and start doing a little bit more proactive work instead of just reactionary, which is not anybody's fault. It's just where it is. And if we're able, this might not be the session for it, but I'll be gone for after this one. So someone else can take up the mantle next time. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Kiekefer. I appreciate your point of view. And I do have questions about the Patient Protection Commission also, and I raised them in pre-session hearings and with staff yesterday, but I'm going to hold most of them until we get to the discussion with Aging and Disability to make sure that, this is an overarching high-level commission that we needed to do some of the work in this state. So I just wanted to make sure that they end up in the right place, because just like you, this is my last one. So I want to make sure I leave it where I really want it to be. And then if anybody tries to move it in the future, I'll come back and visit with them. So With that, Ms. Benitez Thompson, did you have a follow-up?
I did, and it's just a clarification question. And I see it in this budget and in the Lieutenant Governor's budget. And so it's under the maintenance and the AG cost allocation. We seem to see two different numbers in, one end of the 1 year of the biennium and the second year of the biennium. And so I was just looking for the rationale for that on the record.
Okay, so Susan Brown for the record, and we're talking about the Attorney General's cost allocation. So the Attorney General cost allocation plan is based on, for fiscal year 22, I believe, and I might be wrong on this, but I believe that is fiscal year 19. And so those are those are hours that were worked for the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office, and this is actually statewide. So we use the fiscal year 19 actuals, and then those costs are applied to, or those hours are applied to the cost for the AG's office for fiscal year 22 budget, and the same for fiscal year 20 and 23. And so you will see differences in those numbers because there are changes in the hours that are worked or services provided by the AG's office each year.
Thank you so much. And it just might be that we have more data coming in on what the actuals are. And so I just didn't know so across every single, well, I guess at least across this budget and the other budget we're looking at today, there was just higher utilization. And so that's the only reason why we're saying, okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Are there other questions from other committee members at this time?
Madam Chair, Assemblyman Roberts.
Yes, Assemblyman Roberts, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just had
hard to
a
see. Yeah.
quick question about the balance forward, the 202,000 that you annotate here. Maybe you highlighted it, and I apologize if I missed it, but what was that from? What was the budget savings for that you carried over?
If you can give me a minute, I will look that up. I don't have that in front of me.
Thank you. And then while you're looking, if I may, Madam Chair, is I know a lot of state agencies were asked to reduce their budgets by a certain percentage. I was just curious if that was applied to the governor's office or not, or that was asked as well. I don't see a significant decrease.
So Susan Brown for the record, I'll answer that budget reduction question first. And how those worked across the governor's office was we applied those throughout all of the budget accounts that are under the umbrella of the governor's office. So you may not see an actual reduction in one budget, but that reduction was made up in another budget that falls under that umbrella.
Thank you. It makes sense. And Madam Chair, if this is going to take a significant amount of time, I can wait.
This is not,
Okay.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know why there's a balance forward in this account at all.
Okay, and then you do get back. I was just curious as to if it's something that is going to be a reoccurring savings or whatever. Just curious why it wasn't applied to this year's funding request or the next, if it was an anomaly or if it's something that, we're going to realize savings down the line. That's it. But I'll take that offline. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Susan Brown, for the record, I can answer that. That would be an anomaly. This account does not normally have a balance forward in it unless there is, for some reason, grant funds that the account has received.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Mr. Roberts. And Ms. Brown, if you would just be sure and share that with the staff and let them know, unless either Ms. Kaufman or Mr. Thorley has an answer to the question. I just hate having the responses later on. As much as we can get answered the day of the committee, it makes things much cleaner. That way the answer is on the record. So Ms. Kaufman or Mr. Thorley, would you have an answer to that? And if not, we'll just have Ms. Brown reach out to you.
Madam Chair, I'm looking at that right now, and I do not have a good answer for you on that. But it is, Ms. Brown, it is in 2020 is the balance forward that is being referenced, and it's a total of $202,891.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kaufman. So we'll, Ms. Brown, if you'll provide the answer to staff, and then staff will make sure that all the committee members have that document to go along with today's meeting. Okay.
Susan Brown, for the record, I believe that is IFC contingency funds related to the Patient Protection Commission that were authorized in 2019 that were balanced forward to fiscal year 2020.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's good. All right. So with that, committee members, if there are no other questions on the office of the governor, I believe we can go ahead and close out this item and move on to the next item, which is budget account 101-1020, our lieutenant governor. So if we could go ahead and move to that, please.
Madam Chair, this is Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall. May I speak now?
Good morning.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to. Good morning. And good morning, members of the committee. And thank you for having me. I also have my Chief of Staff here, Kate Wilson. I will be doing the introduction and I will also comment on the AG allocation in case there might be something that we have to look up. And then I will hand it over to my Chief of Staff. First, thank you for all your work. I know that this session is difficult and even in just its logistics, so I appreciate what you guys are doing. The Lieutenant Governor's budget is a tidy little budget, but I have a mighty little staff. Over the past 2 years, a couple of the things that we've been able to do is I'll just make a few highlights so you know what I do with the public money you provide our office. We have done a commuter from East Las Vegas to College of Southern Nevada and Nevada State College for students so they can have a direct route, cutting their time from up to 2.5 hours one way to 40 minutes, making sure that they have Wi-Fi, making sure that it's safe. That was a collaborative job. My staff, Christina Lopez, really took the lead on that. And I think it was a very worthy project. Obviously, it's on hold now because of the pandemic. We also started delivering with dignity in Northern Nevada, which has provided 15 jobs to small businesses and delivered over 60,000 meals to people in Northern Nevada who meet the CDC's guidelines for being at high risk of having COVID and do not have the resources to have food provided to their homes. We worked with United Way of Northern Nevada. My staff, who is currently on leave at the National Guard, Courtney McKinney, really headed that up and did a phenomenal job there. The governor did us, me and my staff, the honor of making us chair of the Complete Count Committee of the Census. While we did not have access to any of the allocated funds, we did have access to the people of Nevada, and that is an incredible resource. You should know that Nevada moved from 40th in the country in self-response rate in 2010 to 25th in the country in self-response rate in 2020. We shall, as you know, see the result of our work, but I want to thank the over 70 Nevadans who participated and volunteered their time to reach out to people and get them to provide respond to the census. We also assisted the Clark County School District in getting CARES Act funding to provide mental health assessments for their students. As you know, mental health is a grave and exacerbated issue right now. We were able to facilitate their ability to apply through Joni Ebert, a superintendent of education, to get CARES Act funding so that all Clark County School District schools may provide mental health assessments for their students. And we continue to work on that issue with Poonam Mather. I believe it is a critical and important issue to address this time. Not to leave out rural Nevada, because I am chair of tourism, which focuses on rural Nevada. We helped the town of Ely apply for a grant to do a feasibility study on getting a Trails Institute out there. As you know, my office is also chair of the advisory board of outdoor recreation, a resilient area during this pandemic. In terms of my out-of-state travel, I am the Western Region designee for the National Lieutenant Governors Association, and I am on the Resolutions Committee. So that's what I do in that regard, and why, when there is travel, I go to those meetings. I will now turn it over to my Chief of Staff, Kate Wilson. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I do that, I did want to address the AG's thing. I do not know why we would have had to have asked for extra money for the Attorney General. As chair of the Board of Tourism, I did ask for an AG opinion. However, legally, I cannot ask for an AG opinion as the Lieutenant Governor. I can only ask for that opinion in my position as chair. So if that's what those charges are for, we will need to look into it, because they would be wrongly applied to the office of Lieutenant Governor, or somehow need to be identified as a request from the Board of Tourism. And I think for transparency purposes, I just wanted you to know it's the only thing I can think of where we asked for specific legal advice. So with that, I'll turn it over to my staff, Kate Wilson. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Joint Committee. Sorry, my screen just turned off. For the record, I am Kate Wilson-Moline, Chief of Staff to Lieutenant Governor Pete Marshall. The Governor's recommended budget includes continued funding for our 5 positions and operating costs, including information services, administrative services, purchasing assessments, and the AG costs, which allocations are required to maintain the office. In addition to an in-state travel enhancement for a total of $628,725 in FY22 and $643,863 in FY23. This includes enhancement E350 of $10,181 per year for in-state travel to be used for statewide tours in the Lieutenant Governor's capacity as chair of the Nevada Tourism Commission on Tourism and chair of the advisory board on outdoor recreation, in addition to necessary office meetings in Las Vegas on a monthly basis. It should be noted that this enhancement is merely adjusting our budget to match our 2019-2020 biennial budget for in-state travel, which we were on track to spend in full, but due to decreased travel in response to COVID-19 restrictions, our base year travel budget became skewed. It is our hope to begin traveling again in July 2021, and we hope to be able to resume our trips to rural Nevada quarterly and to Southern Nevada monthly. We have also made the decision to update our office KPIs, our performance indicators, to more accurately represent the work that the office is doing and the priorities of the Lieutenant Governor over the next biennium. The previous Lieutenant Governor's office had focused largely on international travel and entrepreneurship. We have found it more important than ever, especially in response to the pandemic, to focus on in-state and domestic travel, particularly to our rural communities, and to look for innovative ways to support small businesses across the state. And with that, I will take any questions that you all might have.
Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and discuss the travel issues. So with that, committee members, do you have any questions? I believe it was pretty well explained and we understood what happened with the pandemic. So any questions from anyone? I don't see anyone.
I guess, Madam Chairwoman, if it maybe not kind of a question, but maybe to kind of flesh out just a little bit of history. And so when you do the travel in state, could you just talk a little bit more about what that looks like? How many staff members tend to travel? If you divided the enhancement amount of GovRec over, the period of 1 year, it looks to be about, just shy of $1,700, around $1,600 a month in expenses. So if you just want to talk a little bit about, is that kind of one rural trip and one Clark County trip a month, just AG and 2 staff? So that might be helpful just for the record.
Yeah, so we do have a fairly small staff. So generally it depends on what part of our portfolio.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry, Kate Wilson for the record. We do have a small staff, so it depends on what part of the portfolio we're traveling on behalf of. So for example, my colleague Courtney McKimmey, who is now away, unfortunately, at the National Guard, she handled a lot of our small business work. So when the Lieutenant Governor traveled to Southern Nevada to meet with small businesses and work on that part of the portfolio, Courtney would generally travel with her. I cover our tourism portfolio. So if there was a tourism event in Las Vegas, I would travel to Las Vegas with her. Generally, as a rule, the Lieutenant Governor, because she is located in Northern Nevada, tries to go down to Southern Nevada once a month to meet with constituents, have meetings, board appointments, things like that. And then we do quarterly rural tours in which we try to take the whole staff, which would be 3 of us. And they usually last anywhere between 3 days to 5 days, where we drive across the state, stop at small businesses, work with our tourism partners to really highlight the work that they're doing out in those areas. It's been hugely important and hugely successful. We've been able to make really incredible relationships out there and really boost the importance and boost the recognition of the work that they're doing in these communities. So we would really like to be able to continue to do that.
Thank you very much. Other questions from other committee members at this time? I hate to put staff on the spot. I usually like to give them a heads up, but this allocation thing keeps popping up. So Ms. Kaufman, could you kind of walk the committee through these basic allocations? We're going to be seeing these throughout different budgets where all the different agencies pay allocations into certain funds. So if you could address that briefly, just so that all of us are aware of exactly what we're looking at in those documents.
Certainly, Madam Chair. For the record, Sarah Kaufman, LCD Fiscal. With the Attorney General's cost allocations, any services that were provided 3 years ago are then essentially paid for in the present. So 3 years ago, if there were services that were rendered, they would be paying for it at this point in time. And that's built into this cost allocation that the Attorney General assesses so that they can then continue to provide services going forward into the next 2 years. So again, it's based off of services that are in arrears. And so if there were significant legal issues 3 years ago, you would be seeing that and that hit the account right now. We do have an analyst that reviews this during session. And if there are any errors that are identified, we do bring them up as technical adjustments to the committee members during the closings.
Madam Chair,
Hoffman.
this is Lieutenant
Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall for the record. So then I want to withdraw my previous comment because I wasn't in the office 3 years ago. So I actually don't know then what the charges are for, just to clear up any confusion.
And thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And that's why I had asked Ms. Kaufman to make sure everyone was aware. It's a bit odd how the equation on this works. So, but you'll be seeing this all the way through all the different budgets through the rest of the next, 100 days. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware and understood what they actually were. So are there, I guess, Lieutenant Governor, one of the questions I would probably have is, so when we went into this virtual world, did your office do the same? Did you do Zoom meetings with folks across the state since you were not able to travel? How did you address being able to still comply with everything and get everything done?
Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall for the record. Thank you very much for the question. It has been very, very difficult. I have my staff working from home. As you know, women have had also a more difficult time. One of my staff members has 3 children. And so she also had to school the children from home while she was working. And I want to say that the amount of juggling that she has done has been amazing. One of those children is a kindergartner. So I don't really know how my staff is getting through this. My executive assistant does go into the office, and I go into the office to meet her like once or twice a month. It's like a joy to see someone. Other than that, we do a lot of Zoom meetings. I have tried to keep up with the economic development portion by doing presentations before businesses who might be interested in coming here, highlighting small businesses who are here. We did a series of videos for Travel Nevada, which has been very, very helpful. During the summer, I took 3 trips on my own dime, out 50. I stopped off to see some of the mayors on the way to see how they were doing. I also took a trip to Vegas because I was very concerned about the census in our harder to count communities. So I became a not totally pleasant person with the Census Bureau in demanding that we do a weekend of action. I think that made a difference. So sometimes I have done that. Guys, it is very hard, and we try our best. Everyone's working on their own stuff from home. And I probably run my staff ragged with new ideas about how we try to reach out to people. The Delivering with Dignity, we opened in 8 days, and I raised over $500,000 for that. Because there's just so many different needs, right? It's just such a different world that you just have to do whatever you can do. I also have my staff returning every call we got. I know you guys do the same. Those calls are sometimes tearful and sometimes frustrating. Like that. I don't know if that's a good answer for you, Madam Chair, but that's the truth.
Kate Wilson for the record. I will also say that in her capacity as chair of the Commission on Tourism. We also created a recovery subcommittee under the chair of or under the Commission of Tourism to reach out specifically to these tourism partners in rural areas who are struggling. They were able to connect grant funding to them. They were able to help them try to get programming in place for We're Safe and Open, including but not limited to putting big billboards up that had masks on them to say like, wear your mask, visit Ely, those sort of things. So we've been trying to be creative on this. It has been really difficult, especially in working with small businesses and with tourism partners. They also are stretched thin, so we don't want to add more to their plate to try to, get on a Zoom or things like that. But we have been trying to coordinate with them as best possible. And again, like I said, this recovery subcommittee includes members of GoEd, it includes small business owners, it includes our outdoor recreation points of contact to try to make sure that people are utilizing outdoor spaces during this time. So has been difficult, but we've tried to be creative, as I know that everyone else has.
Okay, thank you. Senator Ratty, did you have a question or did it get answered, or would you prefer to work with staff on your question? What's your preference, Senator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just really appreciative of your asking for the overview on the AG allocation for those of us who are just learning the basics. And so just had a clarifying question. Does that include just opinions, or is that like the normal ongoing use of a DAG, or just the regular process of interacting with the Attorney General's office?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Ms. Kaufman, please.
For the record, Sarah Kaufman, it is my understanding that this is for all services. So if there is any litigation or any types of services that they are being employed to do for those agencies, that those are billable hours, that is included in this as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course, Senator, we want everyone to be able to ask their questions and be able to learn the different components of all these budgets as we move forward. Makes it easier later on. So with that, committee members, are there any other questions on this particular item? I know we have some additional information listed here on some different bill draft proposals that'll be coming forward, but I don't believe we really need to discuss those right now. We'll see them when they become bills. And I know there's also a BDR that's out there that hasn't quite made it to a bill yet. So I don't think it's really necessary for us to go over those items at this time. But committee members, you do have just a tidbit of information on those in your documents. So with that, if there are no other questions from any committee members at this time, please speak up if you do. It's hard for me to watch you all. Hearing no other questions, thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor and your staff. We realize what the staff of the state of Nevada has been through in the last 9-10 months, and we appreciate everything that they have done to juggle their family, their work, and to try to do as much as they can for their neighbors and help other Nevadans out. So we really do appreciate the work that your staff has done also. So thank you very much for being here today. And we'll be seeing you at another hearing, I'm sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. So committee members, doing a great job. We have completed our agenda items that were posted for today. We are starting out slow so that we get the hang of this. So by doing that, we give you a little extra time this morning. So to get other things done. So with that, I believe our last item on the agenda would be public comment. So we will ask broadcast services to go ahead and open up the public comment line. It is 8:57. We'll give them a couple of minutes since we're on a bit of a delay for folks to call in with any public comment. So if the committee would just stand at ease for a couple of moments and then we'll address public comment. Thank you all.
Chair, the public comment line is open. There's no one in the queue yet, so we'll give it a couple minutes and I'll check back with you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kaufman, is there something that you wanted to add?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify the question that was posed regarding the balance forward for the governor's office. We did research that, and it was part of a reversion that was to the IFC contingency account, and it was just identified as a balance forward, but it was in fact a reversion.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. In the back of my mind, that's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to speak without making sure. So thank you very much for clearing that up.
Can I just follow up on that, Chairwoman? So we don't need to worry about those dollars then transferring over with the Patient Protection Commission dollars to ADSD because those dollars are sitting at IFC, right? Okay.
I believe the answer to that was yes. We have head nods, but we have to say yes for the record. Okay, so with that, we've given it a couple of minutes for public comment. Broadcast Services, do we have anyone on the public comment line this morning?
We do. We have one. I'm going to set them up to start speaking.
Thank you very much.
Caller with the last three digits of 048, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committees, and Mr. Co-Chair. Stephen Cohen for the record. Stephen with a V, Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, as in the Assemblywoman, no relation, at least that I know of. Just briefly want to address the audit summary from the very beginning in the context that despite the environment that we're in at the moment, hopefully autism and neurodiversity, which is a more broad concept, will be able to receive due consideration in light of the auditor's recommendations, because some of the recommendations will involve money. Some of the issues are addressed in my prepared remarks. If I can be a resource to the committees as the session progresses, please let me know. And with that, thank you, and I yield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coleman. Broadcast Services, do we have anyone else?
Not at this time. The line's open and working, and there are no more callers.
Okay, we've given it a couple of moments, and even with the delay, people should have had time to call in. So with that, committee members, thank you very much for your time and attention this morning. I really enjoy having a joint meeting so that everyone can present to all of us at the same time. We can hear the same information, and it saves the staff and the presenters a lot of time not having to go to two different meetings. So thank you very much, Senator Brooks, for working with us and doing all these joint meetings. We do appreciate it. So with that, we're going to consider our meeting done for the day. We are adjourned. Everyone have a very nice day.